was talking with a friend of mine last night, and we were talking about putting his little router in service for some parts that he's making. He was talking about just selling it. So I wanted to go over a few of the things that I've done to this 6040 here that hopefully will sway him into thinking of his machine as another tool in his toolbox rather than getting rid of it. So this machine, I made a video on this, I think last year, but I got this machine frame only. My dad bought it, and I had a 3040 kind of like that one over there that I traded my dad. He ordered this frame for me, which didn't come with any electronics or motors, and I traded him my entire 3040 setup just for this frame, mainly just to get him into playing with stuff. But so what I did was I put decent stepper motors on it, and there's the part number right there. Maybe there it is. Yay! And I made some standoffs. And here I only have 3 in the Z and the X, but I got 4 down there for Y. And the ball screws were a different size. These are 1/4-inch shaft motors. I think these are 8mm. So all I did was I took a roll-in rigid coupler and I just bored out one side over there. So that's all I really had to do to make the connection. I do not like those coil flex coupler things. Those have too much backlash in them. So this works great. Like I said, I've only got 3 standoffs. I made 4, but it's really not needed. So I got the motors on, and I drilled and tapped some holes for the home switches. So we have X here, Z here, and Y back here. So those are, and then I got the spindle, which is a Uragra, which runs on a Delta 110, 120 power VFD. So I had to make the adapter plates so I could bolt this to here. Like I said, it didn't even come with a spindle on it. So as far as the machine goes, that's all the modifications I think I really had to do to it. As far as the electronics go, I had one of the original Gecko G540 4-axis stepper drives, and this is in an enclosure. This is the 5-volt power supply for, it might be 12 for the fan, and then here's the 48-volt power supply for the motors. Motors and home switches come up back in here, easy peasy. And then this box up here, I'm only really using that for a relay to turn power on and off to the actual VFD. I could have Mach 3 control this through that board and have it control on and off and RPM, but I've just never really gotten into it. This is actually running a UC400. I know on the phone I told you don't go with these, don't go with these. I prefer the UC300. The UC300, you can also have 2 ports on it. So I have 1 port which comes up to this ribbon cable here, and it exits the back of the controller and comes down here. So X, Y, Z, and I do have a 4th axis for this. X, Y, Z, and A are configured through Mach 3 on port 1. And then port 2, the second ribbon cable comes in and goes to that breakout board, which has got these relays on here, and all that does is turn on and off the power to the spindle. So that's the only purpose of this. I could have done it differently. These are just the parts I had on hand. but as you can see, there's not much to putting on decent electronics to these. Let me get, well, I'm jumping ahead. So there's that. And over here, if we come over here and look at the 3040 router, down here, I've got basically the same setup. This controls the spindle and has all the home switches in it. Whereas that one over there, the home switches go to the G540. The home switches and tool probe go to this box. And then that has actually got a G540 on the back side, and it's got a power supply across the bottom for the stepper drives. And that little box right there is the smooth stepper, which I'm probably going to do away with that and do a UC300 on this machine, but the smooth stepper was easily accessible. I don't have near the spindle that has got on there, but this thing has made hundreds of knife handles. And if you're wondering what can you do with these, so I was cutting carbon fiber on this last, that's why it's a mess. But this little pocket right here, I had a fixture offset set up. I got grease on my thumb. But I had a fixture offset set up to where I actually made this knife handle fixture on this machine. This machine has done some amazing stuff for me. And I think these things, for getting started, getting into the hobby, and even doing production parts, you know, I've made carbon fiber, granted they were 2D, but carbon fiber quadcopter frames on this thing for another friend of mine. You see here, outlined some of the knife handles. I've made knife handles on this as well, and then I got that guy, so we set it up over there to do knife handles. Here's some of the quadcopter arms and stuff for the motors, the outlines. So yeah, it doesn't take much. It takes a couple $100. I think these things are, G540s are like 300. I could be wrong. It's a Gecko G540. You need a power supply. It doesn't have to be in this enclosure. I just bastardized this to keep everything, keep the dirt and shit out of it. Don't even really need that up there. You can run a relay off the G540, one of its outputs, with a relay to do the exact same thing that box is doing up there. It's just I had that. And then I put it in this enclosure and stuff, but there you go, Andrew. Hope this helps. Hope you get motivated.